Hello dear friends, let's start from the last topic from where we have left. So the law of dominance as already we know that these laws are applicable in case of sexual reproduction only, and in case of sexual reproduction we need two different parents or partners. Say let's talk by the way, Mendel did all his experiments with pea plants, but we will take different examples so that we could understand how to put the genotype and phenotype easily, so that we don't have to face any kind of problem. We need to know the basic of the laws. Okay, so let's take a what do you say, a red color flower plant. A red color flower plant which is crossed with say a yellow color flower plant. Now if we cross them, so we'll get F1 generation. Mendel was an Austrian individual, or he was an Austrian domicile. So in Austrian language the generation is known as filial. So from filial it is F1 generation. So in F1 generation, as per law of dominance, either we'll get all red color flower plant or we'll get all yellow colored flower plant. Okay, neither will get half red or half yellow, or a portion of red color flower plant, another portion of yellow color flower plant. As per law of dominance, we will get only either all red color flower plants or all yellow color flower plants. Okay, now suppose that we got all red color flower plant, this one. Okay, suppose we have got all red color flower plants in F1 generation and we have not got any yellow color flower plant. In this case we'll say we could see that the red color parent has dominated over the yellow color parent. So in this case we can say that red is the dominant character and yellow is the recessive character. Okay, so if we get all red color flower plants in F1 generation, if we get all red color flower plants in F1 generation, then we can say that red color flower plant or red color parent plant is the dominant one and the yellow color parent plant is the recessive one. So if we, or in case of vis-a-vis, vice versa, if we get all yellow color flower plants, then this yellow color flower parent will become dominant one, and then this red color flower parent will become the recessive one. This is very, very important to identify which one is the dominant one and which one is the recessive one. This will help us to identify the genotype of the character. Okay, or genotype of the cross. Okay, now say all red color flower plants. Now this is phenotype, as we know already, that phenotypic character is the visible character. So red color flower is a visible character, yellow color flower is a visible character. Now in F1 generation, if we get all red color flower, this red color also will be a phenotypic character. Now how to determine the genotypic character of the parent? Okay, in this case the dominant character is red, right? The dominant character is red. This one is the dominant character, right? So, and the dominant character is red, and the first letter is R. First letter is R. So to determine or write down the genotype of this will be capital R, okay, capital R. And in case of this one, it is yellow, but we will not take Y into consideration. We will just put the smaller letter of the dominant one, that is smaller. Okay, now this one red, as it is dominant, so the genotypic will be capital R. This one we will not consider this Y because it is a recessive one. We will go for the smaller letter of capital R, that will be smaller. Now here is a question, why we have to write two R's, two capital R's or two small R's? Why not only single one? Because as we know, just a second, I'll wipe out the board and I'll show you. As we know that this laws of Mendel's are applicable in case of sexually reproducing organisms, okay, and in case of sexually reproducing organisms, we can divide their cells of sexually reproducing organisms. We can broadly divide them into two categories. One is somatic cells, another one is gametes or germ cells. Okay, germ cells are of two types. One is male germ cell, to understand we can call them as sperms. We are more familiar with this term. And in case of females, it is eggs, which are haploid in nature, and okay, and the somatic cells are all the other cells of the body. They are known as somatic cells, and their ploidy or chromosome number is 2 and diploid. Okay, so these are the germ cells. Will have haploid chromosome numbers, that is half of the somatic cells. Okay, now if we can recollect, now if we again go back to the cross, which were red color flower plant, which was the dominant one, and a recessive, which was crossed with recessive yellow color flower plant. Okay. Now as this is the dominant one, so we will put capital R, NN, 2N, because the cells of the flower is not the gamete, cells of the, because the color of the flower is shown by the petals of the flower, not by the gametes. Okay, so as the color of the flower is shown by the petals of the flower, which are somatic cells in nature, so capital R, 2 R's, and depicting NN, 2N. Similarly here also small r depicting NN, 2N, right? So that's why we should write capital R, 2 R's, because 2N, small r, 2 R's, or depicting 2N, or diploid cells or somatic cells of the plant, right? Next, now as we know, the gamete cell, the somatic cells contains 2N, and the gamete cell has half of the chromosome number. Now gamete of this capital R will be only 1 R or single N, and gamete of this one will be a single R. Now if we cross them, the F1 generation will be capital R, small r, which is all red, because wherever there is capital R, as it is the dominant one, it will always dominate over the yellow color. Okay, it is always dominate the yellow color, so it will be all red in nature. See here, there are many characters. Before Mendel, many people tried to identify these kind of laws, but they were confused because they took too much, they took in consideration of too much characteristics of a plant or an individual. But Mendel only concentrated about maximum 3 characters of a plant. Now as we are taking only 1 character of a plant over here, so only the color. In case of other characters, this plant may become dominant over this one. This is case specific only. The dominant and the recessive case, they are case specific. They are not fixed, or they are not eternal in nature. Okay, now how to find out F2 generation? In case of F2 generation, we have to self cross this heterozygous capital R smaller and capital R smaller. This is the parent generation, or you can say this is first generation, second generation, third generation, or this is a grandfather's generation, parents generation, this is progeny generation. Okay, now if we can draw Punnett square, here it's a square like structure like this. Okay, you can put male female, which is an imaginary, this male female is imaginary. You can put, or if you don't put this also, there is no requirement for this one. Now this one set will go over here, and this one set will go over here. So how will to write it? This is capital R, this one small r, capital R, this one small r. Okay, now in combination of these two will come into this box, capital R, these two capital R, small r, these two capital R, small r, these two small r, right? Now this is the F2 generation having 4 progenies. In F2 generation we have 4 progenies. Now if we can write, see, there is no need to mug up this, everything is mathematical in this chapter. So this capital R already we know this represents red color, so this is a red color. Again capital R smaller in F1 generation, red color. So red color. In capital R smaller, red color. And smaller, already known, yellow color. So up to this it's done. So now you have to find two things from this cross, the F2 cross. One is the phenotypic ratio. Okay. One is the phenotypic ratio. As we know, phenotype is visible character. So visible characters are color of the flower. So there are two color of the flower. One is red color is to yellow color. Okay. Red color flower plants are what are their numbers? We can find it from the square itself. 1, 2, 3. So 3 red color flower plants and 1 yellow color flower plant. So this will be the phenotypic ratio. And second is genotypic ratio. So in case of genotypic ratio, we know it is the arrangement of genes. So in these 4 boxes, what are the different types of arrangement of genes? They are capital R is to capital R smaller is to smaller. Okay, one is capital R, second one is capital R smaller. We'll go in sequence wise. First is capital R, then capital R smaller, then smaller. Capital R only 1. Capital R smaller, this is 2, and smaller is 1. So your genotypic ratio will be 1 is to 2 is to 1. Now if we see the genotypic ratio from the last cross, it will be capital R is to capital R, smaller is to smaller. So which was 1 is to 2 is to 1. Now there is a binomial expression of the same. Binomial expression. How? We all know the formula a plus b whole square. It states a square plus 2ab plus b square. Okay. Now if in case of a and b we put capital R and smaller, it looks like capital R smaller whole square. So it will become capital R square plus 2 capital R smaller plus smaller whole square. Now we can write it or rewrite it this way: capital R into capital R plus 2 capital R smaller plus smaller into smaller. Okay, like this way. This, if you can see here, this represents this one. 1 capital R, 1 capital R, 2 capital R smaller, 2 capital R smaller, 1 smaller. Now in the square, you must be aware of that. In the square we had 4 squares itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if we divide the whole section with 1 by 4 capital R plus 1 by 4 2 capital R smaller plus 1 by 4 smaller, it will be is a 1 by 4 capital R Out of 4, 1 is capital R plus half capital R smaller. Out of 4, 2 will be capital R smaller and 1 by 4 smaller. Okay, so in 4 sub squares, one will be occupied by, first will be occupied by capital R, rest 2 will be occupied by capital R smaller, and the fourth one will be occupied by smaller. So this is the binomial expression of genotypic ratio. Okay, now these kind of crosses are also known as monohybrid cross. Why? Because only one character of the whole plant, that is color of the flower, is at consideration. Rest characters, the length, the shape, the size, the position of flowers, the type of leaves, whatever they are, we are not considering that. So this is known as monohybrid cross. So in monohybrid cross, we will consider only one character of an individual. Okay, so this is monohybrid cross, in which we will consider only one character of an individual, right? Next, the second law is law of segregation or purity of gametes. So the second law is law of segregation or purity of gamete. In this is the only law of Mendel which does not have any exceptions. Okay, this is the, you must remember this one, this is the only law of Mendel, this is the only law, this is the only law that does not have any exceptions. Okay, this is most important. This is the only law among all the three laws given by Mendel. This is the only law which does not have any exception. Okay, so this is also known as the universal law of Mendel, as it does not have any exception. Now we can take this is also can be is also explained with monohybrid cross. So again we can take the same explanation, or let's take the explanation from your NCERT book. Example from your NCERT book, that is dominant one, the dominant character in your NCERT book is tall pea plant, and the recessive one will be the dwarf pea plant. So as we already know how to find out the genotype of the dominant one, it is the capital T, as tall is written with T, the letter first, and in case of dwarf, as it is a recessive one, it will be small t. The gamete from capital T will be only one T, here only one small t. So F1 generation will be capital T, small t, all tall. Here you can see that here all the small t's will be with capital T. So as all the small t's are with capital T, small t whose character was dwarfism, it cannot show its own character because it is associated with the dominant character, that is capital T. So this will be in F1 generation all will be tall in nature. In case of F2 generation, it is capital T small t into capital T small t. If we do Punnett square, capital T small t, capital T small t, this one will be capital T, this one will be capital T small t, this one will be capital T small t, and this one will be small t. As you can see that in F1 generation all were talls, but in F2 generation we got one plant which has dwarf in nature, so we are getting a dwarf plant from all tall plants. Now, as the word segregation means separation, and purity means that can maintain or retain its own characters, it won't blend. Here we can see that all the small t's are with capital T's, but as soon as the small t gets separated from capital T, as soon as it becomes small t, or as soon as it gets separated or segregated, as soon as the small t gets separated or segregated from the capital T, it shows back its own character. That's why this is known as law of segregation. And as they are, so we can see that as soon as the small t segregates itself from capital T, it shows its own dwarf character. This is why it is known as law of segregation. And while the small t remains with capital T in F1 generation, it does not blends or loses its character to capital T. That's capital T, so it is able to show its own character in F2 generation. That's why it is also known as purity of gamete, as it maintains its own characters whether it is with capital T or not. Okay, this is the second law of Mendel, law of segregation, that does not have any exceptions in the nature, or still we have not found any exceptions of this law. That's why it is known as law of the universal law of Mendel. Now the question comes. Okay, now we have today seen that law of dominance and law of segregation or purity of gamete, and from we have also seen that all these laws, or both of these two laws can be explained with one cross, that is monohybrid cross. Now one question may arise here, that if both the laws can be determined by only monohybrid cross or only single cross itself, so what is the difference between these two? Now if we try try to understand the difference between these two is that law of dominance, the first law, the law of dominance, it only talks about F1 generation not F2 generation. This is the basic difference between these two laws. The law of dominance only talks about F1 generation, who among both the parents in one character is dominating in F1 generation, but it does not talks about what happening in F2 generation. But in law of segregation, or purity of gamete, it does not talks about F1 generation, it only talks about F2 generation, talks about only F2 generation. So this is the basic difference between these two laws. This is the basic difference between these two laws. One is law of dominance, it talks about only F1 generation, not F2 generation, and law of segregation only talks about F2 generation, it talks nothing about F1 generation. So this is the basic difference between these two laws.